Hello, welcome. Today I want to talk about EMFs and I want to share with you what I have learned in 4 years. And I made a presentation, so I'm going to share it with you now. And yeah, let's go. So Low EMF Lives, the name of my company. My mission is to help people reduce their electromagnetic field exposure. And this is my focus is on the workspace where people spend on average 8 hours a day, on the sleeping room where they also spend on average 8 hours a day, and then on other areas, for example, during transportation or in free time. And I want to start with a bit of a personal timeline. And here you can see that I have a bachelor in real estate development. I graduated in cradle-to-cradle buildings. I wrote a thesis about this. And this has led me to have a very strong interest in sustainability. And in 2015, I started with a master's in TU Eindhoven, building physics, because I really was also not only interested in sustainability from energy perspective, but also from health perspective. Then in February 2016, I attended a convention and I was first introduced to this topic of EMF, and I was quite skeptical at the time, and you can see it took quite some time for me for the idea to really to do something with it. But in September 2016, I said, okay, you know what? I want to let my house be measured by an EMF professional because I was having some health problems. And I said, you know, it wouldn't hurt to get opinion from an expert. And I did that. And at that time was really a turning point because I made quite a big investment in EMF protection devices. It was really not cheap, but this was really an incentive for me to really dive deep into this topic. And yeah, in 2017, I went to visit a holistic doctor. I will mention her website later in the presentation. And she said, hey, Rhino, you're probably electro-sensitive. And she worked with bioresonance. Very, can highly recommend people to try this technology. I think it really can help. It helped me a lot. So yeah, then when the ball started really rolling, and here is the rest of my timeline. You can see what I did in 4 years. Some things are not even mentioned there. And during this presentation, you can pause it. You can also screenshot it. It's all good with me. So now I will go to the next slide. And this is the problem with the current situation is that we have different people or different sectors of people that all have their own interest. The end user generally is not aware of the problem. And the same goes for investors and industry. I feel like they don't really want to know it. Some people might be aware, but a lot of people don't want to know it because they're mostly profit driven. So I think the biggest mistake is with the government. The government really should give an incentive and make stricter guidelines, or what they can say, this is mandatory, maybe from 1 to 10 you can say a 6, but this is recommended an 8, or what I say, I think we should go for a 10. And what I notice, I live in the Netherlands, that a lot of people here have a mentality of a 6, like a 6 is good enough. So I make a building, it follows all the rules, and I can give it a 6, and it's good enough. I can rent it out, make profit, and go. But for me, this is not my mentality. Like I have the mentality, I want to go for a 10, or at least aim for a 10, maybe get a 9, an 8, a 7, doesn't matter. But really, I want to have the biggest and the best quality buildings possible. And also with wireless, but this is a bit the same for both wireless as for electricity and also for other sectors, is that when I talk to the municipality, for example, they say, oh, we have they just forward my email, or they throw it over the fence and say, yeah, but the national government says this. And when I contact people from there, they all say, okay, we aim to the ICNIRP, but I think that the ICNIRP has a bit outdated guidelines and also are influenced by industry. And what would be a better situation is if we would aim for the Bio-Initiative report, the 5G appeal, and the SBM guidelines. And I am a big fan of them. So also there will be a link to their website later. But I think during my research in 4 years' time that they have very accurate guidelines. And also it's based upon more than 30 years of research. So that's that. And here is also my problem definition. What we see now is that buildings are made with high EMFs, and I try to visualize it because you can smell it, you can see it, you can't hear it. Some people can feel it. When you're sensitive, you can feel it, but not everybody can feel it. Not everybody is sensitive, or not everybody is that sensitive. But if we visualize it, we'll see that people have so many frequencies, Wi-Fi's, electricity cables, and you can kind of have this situation like this. Or my goal is to more have a situation like this with harmonious frequencies, love frequencies. A building, whether it's your home or your office, should be a place where people can love each other. And this is not only love in the form of romantic love, but also love for society, love for co-workers, these kind of things. And that's really my goal, that to create buildings where people can love each other. Here's another example. This was a case study I did. This was with a woman, and she lived on ground floor. It was a very small house, but it has a crawl space here. So there's a space underneath the ground floor. So I was thinking, okay, I'm in her house and I'm measuring, and I think, okay, I'm standing on the ground floor. It must be very healthy. But what the building company did, they put all the electricity cables under the ground floor. So while you were working on the ground floor, walking on the ground floor, you were in a voltage, and this is not recommended. But there's also a positive thing to it. This was the bathroom. The bathroom is grounded, and there it was very good. But I think I look at the cost. It's like 20 euros a square meter or something to ground the floor when you start doing this in construction. And why don't we do it for all the building? Or when a building has more floors, why don't we do it on all the floors as well? I think this can be a huge improvement. But the problem is, if you want to do it later, it will be very costly, but also very technically will be very, very difficult. This is also part of my problem definition. I see the same in office environments. So here I visualize the different kind of EMFs. So blue for the light noise, red for the Wi-Fi, yellow for the electric fields. That a lot of people in office environments are exposed to very much EMFs, but it's not only one sort of EMF. So we can say, hey, this one kind of EMF is too high, my exposure, but it's cumulative. So you have both Wi-Fi, electric fields, dirty electricity, and when all these levels are too high, then it's really bad. So if one of these three is too high, it's kind of okay. But when all three of them are too high, we really put people in toxic work environments, especially in offices. And that's, I think, is a bad trend. And also now with smart buildings, we see, because there's not enough awareness and not enough incentives, that people make low energy this, low energy that, but it's not low EMF. So it's not a holistic solution. That's also a part of the problem, is that not enough people have holistic skills. So we have a lot of specialists, but there are not enough people with big holistic helicopter overview. And here we can see that workspace can lead to a lot of stress and can have very high consequences, also for the economy. So now we'll come to my goal. And my goal is to create healthy and future-proof buildings, incorporate holistic health vision into new buildings and renovations, and remake or make buildings that promote optimal health for the end user. And I see a lot of building experts. I want to give them all credits for the work they're doing, and they're focusing on these kind of areas. But a lot of people forget the EMFs, the clean electrical environment. And I hope that I or somebody else can help them to incorporate this into a holistic vision. And this is my hypothesis. A low EMF workspace can lead up to 12% increased productivity and less absence due to illness. And this is based upon my own thesis that I wrote in 2011. So the hypothesis also needs to lead to a business case for people to give an incentive. And the business case is that the low EMF building will very probably lead to increased productivity and better health, happiness, and concentration for employees. And if we were going to quantify this, like I described in my thesis from 2011, then the payback time and the return on investment are both very good. So yeah, here's other benefits, like money saved in future healthcare can be enormous. And when you do it before you start building or rebuilding and building, and you take into account these EMFs, the extra cost will be marginal. But if you're going to do later and you have to break open walls or whatever kind of difficult things you have to do, the cost can be exponential. And this is something we should avoid. So it's better to, in the front of the process, take into account this EMFs into your vision. And then we can really make better quality buildings with higher end value. And here's a meme I made about electrosensitivity. I met electrosensitive people, a lot of them. And some people really can't bear it. They're really here and they live in a wooden house in the forest. Some people, they really shielded their whole house and stuff. I think for myself, I'm more a bit in the middle, like I'm sensitive, but not hypersensitive. And there's people that have less of these things because I think they have a good resistance and they are generally healthy people. They can handle more. But I think that we're all electrical sensitive. So it's not a black or white thing. I think it's more like a gray scale or a color scale, or like I say here, a scale from 1 to 10. So I would encourage people to take this into account. And also, you might be very healthy, but if you're going to work for 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life in a high EMF environment, you will end up slowly going there. And this is not what we want. At least not what I want. So now I want to dive a bit into literature research. I made a Google Drive page. So if people are interested, they can contact me and they can ask me about my e-learning module that I'm offering. But for the viewers, these are the best books and videos that I have seen that I can highly recommend. If you want to know more, well, the links are here. I also want to say do your own research, but the book Dirty Electricity from Sam Milham is highly recommended. Every energy or building or holistic health professional should read this book. If you don't have time to read the book, I have made a book summary on my own YouTube page myself, but you can also listen to this interview that Dr. Milham gives with Dr. McCullough, and it gives you a lot. And this is also a great book, The Body Electric, and it explains that we humans have electrical body that work also on signals and frequencies. So it is very important to take this in account. And also I can highly recommend this video, Resonance, Beings and Frequency, but I can recommend hundreds of videos, but I made a list. It's on Google Drive, and I have also made priorities. So I know a lot of people are busy. So I put the most important videos on top. And if you're really interested, you can go further, dive into it. So contact me if you're interested. This is also a part of my literature research. And there are many scientists that claim that EMFs have health effects. So this is just 4 of them, 4 important ones. But when people say, oh, there's no evidence EMFs are harmful, this is simply not true. I don't want to be too blunt, but those people, in my opinion, are just lazy or ignorant because the evidence is already there and it's not something new. There's even evidence from many, many years back. And here's a whole link. Here's the link to the SBM guidelines. This is a whole link where you can do further research. So take a screenshot or message me and you can get this PowerPoint presentation in PDF. So now I want to come to my field research. So I also invested quite a lot in meters, and not only in meters, but in time and effort and all these things. But financially, I invested quite a lot in meters, and I done over the years quite some measurements in houses. I have not always been that accurate with my administration, but I have measured at least 38 households. I made my own color scale here, but this is a bit, I done a bit like that. It's not too detailed. This is more based on a feeling, so further research is needed. But generally speaking, I haven't met one person that's good, except for a woman that I know, but she lives in a shielded house somewhere far away in the woods. But her house was pretty perfect, looking at the EMFs. But for the rest, out of all houses I've been to, I haven't seen one house that's perfect. And what's really worrying me is what we're seeing here, that a lot of people put their beds or even their children's beds next to the wall. And in the wall is electricity cables. And these cables give off an electric field. And what we see here with my EMF meter is that this is a bedroom of a child, and this child is sleeping in a voltage. And this could, I'm not saying it does, I'm saying it could lead to things like autism or these kind of things. And I think it's just not recommendable to do this. And there are solutions for it, but it's better to prevent it when we make or remake buildings than to take care of the problem afterward. But this is really worrying me, and I think we should really take action to prevent children, but also elderly. This is people that are not fully developed, have weaker immune systems, and they are more susceptible toward EMFs. This is also part of my field research, but this is for companies and organizations. But it's a bit the same. Like I found not one company that's good. So not one, no, not one. I haven't met one company that I can say, okay, there the situation is perfect or how it should be. And here's a screenshot. I took this in TU Eindhoven, and here we can see that the students that are working here, you see they're also working wireless, by the way, but that they are working under more than 1000 millivolts. And SBM guidelines says anything above 1000 is highly toxic. So even in a place where you wouldn't expect it, like TU Eindhoven, where they say where innovation starts, we think the smartest people in the world are, they do not take it in account. And this is, in my opinion, because the people that have the degrees there, no disrespect, but I think their education is outdated, or they're a bit, because they have high degrees, PhD, doctors, everything, they're a bit in a tunnel vision. So they only focus on their own aspect, but they do not have the holistic helicopter view. And this is, in my opinion, very problematic. Yeah, and here I made this quote: I estimate that more than 95% of workspaces score very bad compared to the SBM guidelines. And here's the link to the SBM guidelines. So now I'll come to the conclusion that I draw upon my research. So I researched different kind of EMFs. And I think one of the most accurate ways to measure them is to measure the body voltage. This is an estimation, but I estimate that the average employee is exposed to around 2500 millivolts. If you take into account that they work there for 40 hours a week, they will have a total exposure of around 100 volt hours. This is a formula, but there's also formulas how we can reduce this. For example, by grounding, we should counter it by grounding. We should have maybe grounding hours or these kind of things. We can make the same formula for microwaves and these kind of things. And my goal is to create, to have an indication how much EMFs people are exposed to in a week. So before we start the discussion about whether the EMFs are good and bad, I think it's good to start measuring and start calculating the EMF exposure, because yeah, then we just keep the discussion very objective and not go too deep into the emotions. So here are results from measurements I did in TUE University of Eindhoven, Technical University of Eindhoven. Here we can see the SBM guidelines, and I gave them a color scale. So green is good, yellow is okay, orange is dangerous, and red I would say toxic, or yeah, I don't know how else to say it. And here that we see that in the university I haven't found one place that scores good. So this is on the body voltage. And on this slide here we can see what happens to our cells when we are exposed towards high voltages. Yeah, here we can see that when we are anywhere in the plus, we have chances of getting sick, or even that cancer can occur. And here we can see also negative voltages. So this is also has to do with pH. So I also am a believer of alkaline diet. or let's say at least 80% alkaline diet to have a balanced diet, but in generally speaking, have an alkaline diet, and also to have negative voltages, like when we walk barefoot on the ground. This is much better situation, and I think this is the key in achieving optimal health. And to be exposed to high voltages is really not recommendable. Here are also some pictures I took during field research. This is about electric and magnetic fields. So the measurement for electric field is kind of the same as the body voltage, but here I measure it with a meter, and with the body voltage, my body turns into the meter. And I think therefore it's much more accurate. Yeah, and I saw also here you see red, red, red. This meter gives 3 colors. Green is good, yellow is okay-ish, and red is dangerous. And here we can see that this office building that I was measuring, all workplaces scored in the red. So yeah, that says something about the state of our current buildings. And about the magnetic fields, yeah, I described it also here, but magnetic fields generally do not really cause a problem unless you're above a power line or something, but there are exceptions. And I made a picture here where I visualize this. This is in a studio. So where I live, there's a lot of people that live in studios, and the trend toward the future is also tiny homes. And here we have the power box, so where the power comes into the house, yeah, and there divides into the sub power lines to the groups. But this place, there's a lot of power going through, and when you put your bed next to the wall here, so this is in the wall, and you put your bed next to it, you're sleeping in a magnetic field. And I don't remember exactly who said it, but magnetic fields are supposed to be one of the most toxic forms of EMFs, but further researches need to be done about this. And this is really not optimal, or in my opinion, dangerous and toxic situation. And I think really that building, construction and real estate companies should really be aware and take this in account and take action on this. Yeah, and also about one last thing about electric fields, they can be in place where you do not expect it. For example, I did a measurement in the sauna. You think, oh, I'm finally relaxing in the sauna. And then you're not aware that you're under the wood is a power cable for the light or whatever, and that you're still in electric field. So that's not optimal. So now we'll go to the next kind of EMF. This is dirty electricity. Regarding dirty electricity, it's the same. I estimate more than 95% of office workspaces have an unhealthy electrical environment. Here's a meme I made that summarizes the dangers about dirty electricity. And I'd like to refer to the scientists, Sam Milham and Magda Havas. And also I want to encourage people to do their own research, because we live in the information age, people. We all have access to Google, YouTube, Instagram, these kind of platforms. So when you're not doing your own research, sorry to say it, but I think that you are ignorant if you're not doing your own research. But I encourage everybody, doesn't matter, government, industry, end user, investor, doesn't matter. I encourage everybody to do a bit research yourself. Here's another slide I made about dirty electricity. And now I want to talk about renewable energy, because renewable energy is good. I am a high advocate of renewables. I think it's wonderful. I think we should transition toward this. We should stop the global warming, these kind of things. I've invested my time in this for many, many years. I'm, once again, I cannot say it enough times that I'm a high advocate of renewable energies. But when we install renewable energy systems, for example, the solar system that was installed here, and we generate dirty electricity with this renewable energy system, and the people that live here are in a toxic environment, I do not think it's a good trend. So the industry, I highly want to encourage them to dive deep into this topic and to come up with low dirty electricity, green energy solutions. And I made this meme about this here. So what we have now is a situation where we want to transition from, let's say, high environmental pollution toward low environmental pollution. Yeah, so we want to go from fossil fuels to renewables. That's the trend that we're heading in, and then that's the government's mandate, these kind of things. But what happens when we go from high environmental pollution source of energy to low environmental pollution, but we create low environmental solutions with high dirty electricity? This is not a good trend, and people need to say, stop, no, take this no further. And that's why I marked this square here in the red. And what we should want is the square right here in the green, where we have both sustainable, renewable energy source, but also that it's low in these EMFs, especially dirty electricity, but also other kinds of EMFs, like the electric field. So now I want to talk about 5G network and wireless communication. And I don't really like to be Mr. Stop 5G, but I want to encourage people to do their own research on this topic. And if I go to Instagram and I search on hashtag Stop 5G and I see certain memes, this is not even the most controversial ones, but if I see certain memes and I see the health effects, especially the health effects it can have on children, and these kind of things, or on bees and our ecology. Let's not talk about the economy now, let's talk about ecology. It's very dependent on bees. Yeah? And if I see the effects it could have on bees or on children, then it really worries me. And I think that everybody has the responsibility to do their own research. And I want to encourage them to go on Instagram and search on this hashtag, or go also on YouTube and listen to both sides of the story. So don't go just to Google and just click the first three paid things or industry sponsored posts, or also that, you know, people, they pay people to get higher in Google and these kind of things. So do not only look at the people that receive all the funding and that have all the support, but look also at the independent people, what they are saying about this topic. And if you work for the government and you're watching this, I think it should be mandatory that you spend at least 1 hour, but I recommend 4 hours or more hours, that you do this research about this topic. And I don't want to be somebody that says only everything is bad. No, we can also do wonderful things with modern technology. But I think that SafeG, and there's a website where they describe what SafeG is. But SafeG is a much better alternative in my opinion. So I don't want to say I'm anti-5G. I am pro SafeG. That's what I would want to say. SafeG. Better to be safe than sorry. Here's an example how I created SafeG myself in my own house. So I have a smartphone, the Samsung Galaxy S10. And I have wired it with the Ethernet cable, and there's a special kit that you can buy also from my website, but also from others. A special kit that you can buy. So you can use your smartphone while in the airplane mode. And you can still have the benefit. You can still go to Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or whatever you like to do. But you're not being exposed towards these microwaves. And also there's a trend now, the cell towers, they go higher and higher in their voltage. But this is done so that people can be reached while they're inside a building. But now I am inside of a building, and you can reach me by WhatsApp, Skype, Zoom, you name it. So it's not really necessary, in my opinion. So this is a way that we can lower the voltages. And plus there comes an extra benefit. If the cell towers emit lower voltages or wattages, then also we can save on energy costs. So from an environmental perspective, this is also a great benefit. And this is my conclusion. Cabled connection offers us all the benefits of modern technologies without the downsides. So take that in account. My next slide is about light noise. I did some research together with Joost Valk, but unfortunately he passed away a few years ago, or already more than a year ago. Rest in peace. But I want to thank you, Joost. I hope that you're watching from heaven. But we came to the conclusion that a lot of modern light sources, especially CFL bulbs, but also certain LED lights, create a thing called light noise. And light noise can lead also to disturbances. And here's a slide from Magda Havas, where we can say that people were bothered by certain types of light. So with sunshine, people were not bothered at all, or maybe in the summer when it's really, really a lot of sunshine. But generally speaking, but here we see CFL bulbs, tube fluorescent, can cause people at the end of the day to be very fatigued when they are surrounded by them. And here I try to visualize this also. So because we cannot see it, but it still is there. So I also want to take people in account. More research you can find on the website from Magda Havas. And here you can see my video with Joost Valk if you click on this link, bit.ly/lightnoise. Then my next slide is about blue light. This is also problematic, but I think this is more the responsibility of the end user, although I do recommend blue light blocking glasses, and there are also certain solutions to filter out blue light. But when, especially late at night, after it's dark outside and you are suspected exposed toward high levels of blue light from computer, tablet, smartphone, television, these kind of things, it's not healthy. And also with LED lights, it can be problematic when they have too much white or too much blue. Then our brain thinks this is the middle of the day, and this is causing us to have sleep problems. And it also has effects on the eyes. So I also want to warn people about blue lights and be aware of them. But okay, now we go to the more positive side of my story. I also came to the conclusion that earthing, walking barefoot on the ground, or connecting yourself to a preferably heating system, that we can have tremendous benefits. So here's an experiment done with plants, and you can see this plant is grounded and this one not. And you can see how much better this plant performs over time. And I think it's the same goes for humans. So I use an earthing sheet myself. I'm a big advocate of it, although I think it's best to let it be installed by a professional because there are certain things that you need to take in account. But yeah, earthing, it has many benefits. And also go to the website Earthing Institute, or this video is also very, 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 very highly recommended, the video Down to Earth. It's just 15 minutes of your time. Everybody should have seen this. Everybody that's interested in buildings, real estate, holistic health should see this video. Here's some results from a pilot project I did from In a Sense Spiritual Center, where also people can stay like a bit like a hostel or hotel, but they have a bit kind of different concept with spirituality and volunteering and these kind of things. My goal was there to create a low EMF bedroom. So we did this, but unfortunately we didn't have enough budget to completely make everything low EMF, but we used an earthing sheet. And here we can see that the people before earthing, sleeping there in one bedroom, one specific bedroom, they were exposed to what? 7,000 millivolts. So this is 7 times above the recommended level from SBM guidelines. Here's also an average desk. It's also 3 times above the recommended levels. But after we grounded it, we had around 300 millivolts. So this is already a huge improvement. But ideally, we want to get it here below 10. But I still think that 300 is a lot better than 7,000. So my next slide is about crystals. When I was first hearing about this topic, I was quite skeptical. So if you are, I can relate to that. But over time, I decided to do some research about this. When I saw this documentary, Crystals Visions, everybody can see this for free on YouTube, I totally changed my mind. And now I am a firm believer that crystals have healing properties. So in my vision of the future workplace or the future bedroom, a lot of them will be equipped with crystals. But there are things with crystals that one crystal might be more beneficial for one person than another. So there's also some details to take into account. But generally speaking, I can highly recommend people to invest in crystals. Also, I think that is the best low EMF budget solution for EMF harmonization. I will come to that in 2 slides. So, conclusion, EMFs are not only negative, they can also be quite positive. But my goal would be to increase people's exposure toward positive EMF, also infrared light and infrared saunas. I'm an advocate of that, although I do believe that the infrared sauna should be low EMF infrared saunas. Also nature, love, heartbeats. Our heart also emits a frequency, people emit frequencies. So yes, expose yourselves towards positive forms of EMFs and try to reduce your negative forms of EMFs as much as possible. Then from all these conclusions, I also made a creation. I created this thing I called Trias Energetica, Trias Magnetica, and it's based upon Trias Energetica. This is a philosophy to reduce our carbon footprint and our energy consumption. And I think we can implement those same guidelines, but then for EMFs. And it starts with reducing our exposure. So for example, turn off your Wi-Fi at night, keep your phone in airplane mode when you don't need to use it, or these kind of things, cable your connections, these kind of things. Then the second step would be harmonize your EMFs, crystals, or if you have more money, you can try these EMF devices, but they can be quite costly, but it might be worth investing in it. I'm not putting any claims on it because I'm independent, yes, so I'm not sponsored by these companies or anything. They can work. I do think they have their own responsibility to prove the things can work with their research. That's what I want to encourage the companies that create EMF harmonization things. And the last step that we need to take is compensate our EMF exposure by healthy lifestyle, diet, exercise, sauna, detoxification, these kind of things. So yeah, here I describe it. But about the reduction, there's a guy I followed him on YouTube for quite a while. His channel is called EMF Safety Zone. And he says about the reduction, it's best to start with reduction, then eliminate it. For example, shield your place or try to really lower your consumption, because if you don't use any energy, or you won't need it. And proximity, to keep a bit distance. The more distance you keep from the source, the better it is. So here is my mission and what I want to do. Yeah. So also next to the conclusion always comes the recommendation. And yeah, not everybody is gonna see your vision. So my goal is to create sustainable buildings. I said already in the beginning. But also I want to redevelop building guidelines with mandatory or recommended EMF demands, because mandatory EMF demands, that can take quite some time. But why don't we start with recommended levels? So instead of saying, hey, I create a building and a 6 is good enough, I want to create a building and for me, a 10 is good enough, or a 9.5. So we can, and this from a perspective of investors, like in real estate, we see this thing happening now in the Netherlands with BREEAM. Like we say, hey, when the building has a BREEAM certification, the building has more worth. People want to pay more rent, these kind of things. So why don't we do this with EMFs? Or why don't we incorporate EMFs into the BREEAM? Yeah, I'm a lobbyist for that already for quite some time, but I will continue to do that. So my opinion is that we should create these things, and I would be very grateful if I can help institutions and organizations with developing these guidelines. Also, I have the dream of developing real estate. Like I have a degree in real estate, so I want to develop low EMF real estate. An example would be low EMF tiny homes. Also, I want to start a discussion with industry, electrical suppliers, investors, end users, government, etc., to talk about how we can make sustainable and healthy energy available for end users. So energy without dirty electricity on the grid. Because in the end of the day, we're all humans. And in the end of the day, we're all end users. Everybody has a house, or at least a place to sleep. And everybody has an office or a place to work, or even if you work outside, but this is also can see as your work environment. So it doesn't matter if you're poor or rich, black or white, straight or gay, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all humans, and I think we all deserve Well, let's start with the home and the sleeping place. This is the most important. We all deserve healthy homes. I think it's a human right, if you ask me. And yeah, much more. Contact me if you're interested and if you want to talk further. So solutions, there are a lot of solutions. There's a lot of companies that offer solutions. I think that the most important solutions is that the government will have, for this problem, the government will come up with stricter rules, or they come up with recommended, like I said. Also, we should educate engineers or re-educate engineers, let's say it like that, because a lot of people have already these kind of degrees, but 10, 20, 30 years ago, they didn't have the knowledge we have now. So I want to encourage everybody, keep learning every day. This is also my own mantra. Like, the person that thinks they know it all knows nothing. I think this is also some quote from some Greek philosopher or something. All I know is I know nothing. So keep educating yourself, people. Educate yourself every day as much as you can. So rebuild existing buildings, replace dirty electricity generating sources or other harmful EMF sources. Rethink electricity distribution, and I think it's also the same as telecom, especially with the wired possibilities that we can have in our own houses. So for myself, I don't have any wireless devices in my house. And I do not think it's necessary at all. And I'm not against smart meters, but the smart meter should be wired. And this goes for all of these technological things. I'm not against them. No, I am pro technological development. I love it, but it shouldn't have negative side effects. So, and even if the industry says, hey, the end user doesn't demands this now, the end user doesn't have the option to go for the low EMF solution. So, for example, I have the Samsung Galaxy S10 and you have also the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. So why don't we offer the same toward people when we offer them a house to say, hey, you have this house, it costs 800 a month, and this low EMF house costs 850 a month. We should at least give people the option, and then we can say, okay, the end user chooses to, chooses not to. But it's supply and demand, the chicken and the egg. But I think that suppliers really have a high responsibility in this, especially in places where the demand is higher than the supply. Yeah, and here go wired as much as possible. Yeah. And I like to lead by example. Also, I want to put people on the heart that it's very wise to start measuring, because once you start measuring, you have a starting point. You will have an indication of your current exposure. So if I measure your house now and I will come back in 6 months, we can compare and say, hey, take before and after pictures, or make a report with before and after. And then we can have a scientific discussion, say, hey, let's say you reduce your EMF exposure by 50% and you feel 20% better. But then we can have a scientific discussion about it. But measuring, in my recommendation, should be the starting point. I can help you with that. This is my own equipment, part of it. Also part of my own solutions. Here, blue light blocking glasses, power bank, dirty electricity filter. This is a thing to block your phone. The connection kit for your phone on the Ethernet cable. So there are solutions, but my recommendation is start measuring. And also my goal and my dream in the future is to create a benchmark. So this can be especially interesting for companies. So we can create a benchmark and say, hey, company A has exposure, let's say between 1 and 10, 7. And after I come there, it will become a 5. So the lesser the score, it's better. And the people feel better. And we can compare the companies with each other, and the companies can start a discussion with each other. And I think that would be a great way forward to improve this whole EMF situation. So we're almost to the end. This is an end note. This is also a meme I made myself. But I want to ask people, keep this in mind. So we are electromagnetic beings, or some would say beings of light. Consequently, we respond to external sources of electromagnetic frequencies in a variety of ways that can either be beneficial or harmful. And also, I want to end with this quote from this very famous scientist, Nikola Tesla. if you want to find the secrets of the universe, things in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So before we go, I want to say special thanks to the people that I have collaborated with over the years. Shielding Technologies and Avenas are really people that gave me financial boost, but also boost in, how to say that, they kind of sponsored me. So I want to say special thanks to them. Earthing Institute and IBM from bouwbiologie.de, I would say this could be knowledge partners for a future project. So I also want to say special thanks to them. And also, in a sense, I want to give them also a shout out because they helped me with starting with the pilot project. So also thank you to everybody that's involved to them. And last but not least, all scientists, small, medium entrepreneurs, customers, activists, and more. Because maybe there's people I haven't mentioned here, but I do think about you and I do want to thank you. Then, if you want to contact me, I have all kinds of links. I have here on Linktree. If you like this, you can buy me a coffee. You can do donation contribution. You can contact me. You can check out my YouTube channel. You can find my website where you can also find the links to my social media pages. And if you want to email me, my email address is lowemflive@yahoo.com. And my website is lowemflive.com. Then I have a bonus slide. It's about healing from EMF sensitivity. I think it's also very important that people that have this sensitivity or have other sensitivities, that they can have an opportunity to heal. In my own research, I also found out that fasting, so for example, water fasting, but also things like juice fasting or fruit fasting, can be very helpful and very healing. And it's also a dream of mine to start a detoxification clinic. So if you want to contribute in one way or another, contact me. And what we can do there: water fasting, juice fasting, herbal therapy, plant medicines, infrared sauna protocol, massage, emotional support, healthy diet, exercise, meditation, etc. I think this is the future. Preventative healthcare. So instead of a person becoming ill and then they take a pill, we say, hey, we reduce that chance and we do preventative healthcare. So that was it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you think it would be interesting for other people, because we can all make a contribution. Even if you cannot or don't want to make a financial contribution, you can still help spread this message to the world by liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing. So once again, thank you for watching, and contact me if you have any questions or comments.